The parking meter angel. For 3 years, drivers found mysterious notes on their windshields instead of parking tickets. Your brake lights are out. Please fix them. Check your tire pressure. Then they discovered who was leaving these life-saving messages, and why he started will break your heart. Downtown Chicago was a parking enforcement nightmare. Double-parked cars, expired meters, handicap violations that blocked accessibility ramps. The city employed 60 parking officers whose job was simple: write tickets, collect revenue, keep traffic flowing. Each officer had a daily quota, $500 worth of fines minimum, no exceptions. But Robert Martinez was different. For 3 years, drivers in the Loop District had been finding something unexpected on their windshields. Not the dreaded orange parking tickets that cost $75 and ruined your morning. Instead, they found handwritten notes. Your left headlight is out. Please replace it before driving at night. Your tire pressure looks low. Check it before you get a blowout. Your brake lights aren't working. This could save your life. The notes were always written in careful cursive on small pieces of paper. Never preachy, never demanding, just concerned observations from someone who cared about strangers' safety more than the city's revenue. At first, drivers thought it was a scam. Maybe someone trying to drum up business for a repair shop. But the notes never included contact information or recommendations for where to go. They were just warnings, gentle suggestions from someone who noticed things others missed. Word spread through social media. #ParkingMeterAngel started trending on Twitter. Drivers would post photos of the notes they'd received, sharing stories about accidents avoided because someone cared enough to point out a safety issue. Found this on my car today, posted @ChicagoMom3. Pads were completely worn down. Could have crashed with my kids in the car. Thank you, Mystery Angel. He warned me about my headlight being out, wrote @CommuteDad. Fixed it that afternoon. 3 days later, I had to drive through that terrible storm. Might not have made it home to my family without that note. The parking meter angel became an urban legend. People started parking in the Loop District, hoping to get one of his notes instead of a ticket. Car repair shops reported unusual increases in preventive maintenance. Insurance companies saw fewer accidents in that specific area of downtown. But nobody knew who he was. The City of Chicago's parking division was less amused. 3 years of reports showed a glaring anomaly. Lot 7, in the downtown Loop, Robert Martinez's assigned area, had the lowest ticket revenue in the entire system. Not because there were fewer violations, but because Officer Martinez somehow never seemed to write any tickets at all. Before we continue, hit subscribe, like this video, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Because this story isn't just about parking tickets. It's about a man who turned his greatest tragedy into his life's mission to protect strangers. And the reason why will change how you see guardian angels forever. Robert Martinez hadn't always been the parking meter angel. 5 years ago, he was Senior Detective Robert Martinez of the Chicago Police Department, 23 years on the force, specializing in traffic fatalities and vehicular homicide investigations. He'd seen every kind of car accident imaginable, investigated thousands of crashes, and knew better than anyone how quickly a routine drive could turn deadly. But knowing about car accidents professionally was different from living through one personally. Maya Martinez was 8 years old, with her father's dark eyes and her mother's infectious laugh. She loved soccer, painted her fingernails rainbow colors, and collected stuffed elephants. Every school morning, she would kiss Robert goodbye and climb onto bus 47, settling into her favorite seat 3 rows from the front. On October 15th, 5 years ago, bus 47 never made it to school. The accident report was clinical, factual, devastating. The bus driver, 52-year-old William Chen, had been driving school buses for 15 years with a perfect safety record. But on that morning, his brake lights weren't working. A faulty electrical connection, something that could have been fixed for $30 at any auto repair shop. The pickup truck behind the bus didn't know it was stopping. Chain reaction collision. 12 injured children. 1 fatality. Robert had investigated hundreds of accidents just like this one. Mechanical failure, simple oversight, preventable tragedy. But this time, he wasn't Detective Martinez examining evidence. He was a father identifying his daughter's body in a hospital morgue. The pickup truck driver, Maria Santos, was a single mother of 3, working 2 jobs, driving home from her overnight shift at the hospital. She'd been awake for 18 hours straight, struggling to keep her eyes open, when the school bus ahead of her suddenly stopped, with no warning lights. At the trial, Maria sobbed as she testified. "I never saw brake lights. If there had been brake lights, I would have stopped. I would have seen them stopping. I'm so sorry." The bus driver William Chen testified that he'd noticed the brake lights weren't working the day before, but hadn't had time to get them fixed. One more day, he'd thought. What could happen in one more day? Robert sat in the courtroom listening to testimony about how his daughter's death could have been prevented by a $30 repair and 5 minutes at a gas station. The accident that destroyed his world was entirely, completely, stupidly avoidable. Both drivers received light sentences: vehicular manslaughter, probation, community service. The legal system classified Maya's death as a tragic accident, not a crime worthy of serious punishment. Robert couldn't return to investigating traffic fatalities. Every crash scene was Maya's crash scene. Every fatality report was Maya's death certificate. Every preventable accident was a reminder that his expertise hadn't been enough to protect the one person who mattered most. He took early retirement from the police force and spent 6 months in his empty house, surrounded by Maya's stuffed elephants and rainbow fingernail polish, wondering how to live in a world that didn't include her laughter. Then he saw a job posting for parking enforcement officers. Minimum wage, basic benefits, walking the streets 8 hours a day, checking meters and writing tickets. It seemed appropriate. He'd gone from protecting the city to pestering drivers about expired meters, a suitable punishment for a father who'd understood car safety intellectually, but hadn't checked his daughter's school bus personally. But on his first day, walking the Loop District, Robert couldn't unsee what he'd trained himself to notice for 23 years. Brake lights that didn't work, turn signals that flickered inconsistently, headlights with burned-out bulbs, tires worn down to dangerous levels. All the small mechanical failures that could turn routine drives into disaster. Each car he examined was potentially someone's last ride. Each ignored maintenance issue was Maya's accident waiting to happen to someone else's child. Robert wrote his first parking ticket that day. A red sedan parked 15 minutes over the meter limit. But as he filled out the citation, he noticed the car's left brake light was completely dark. He walked around the vehicle, checking other lights, tire tread depth, anything else that might be dangerous. The brake light problem was serious. If this car stopped suddenly, the driver behind wouldn't get proper warning. Just like Maya's bus. Just like the accident that could have been prevented. Robert tore up the parking ticket and pulled out a small notebook he'd started carrying. In careful handwriting he wrote, "Your left brake light is out. Please replace it before driving." This could prevent an accident. He placed the note under the windshield wiper where the ticket would have gone and walked away. That afternoon he wrote 17 more notes instead of 17 tickets. The pattern continued for 3 years. Robert would approach a car to check the parking meter, but his trained eye would automatically assess the vehicle's safety. Worn tires, broken lights, cracked windshields, anything that could contribute to an accident. Instead of writing parking citations, he wrote safety warnings. His daily reports to the city were creative fiction. No violations observed in assigned sector. All meters in compliance during patrol hours. Technically true, since he chose not to see parking violations when car safety violations were more important. Robert's supervisors noticed his low ticket numbers, but attributed it to an assigned area with particularly law-abiding drivers. His sector had the fewest parking violations in the city, which seemed like good news rather than suspicious news. Meanwhile, drivers began actively seeking out the parking meter angel. They would park in Robert's area, hoping to get one of his helpful notes. Social media posts about his warnings became local news stories. Car repair shops in the Loop District reported unprecedented increases in preventive maintenance. But Robert remained anonymous, preferring to help from the shadows, rather than accept recognition for what felt like the least he could do. The system worked perfectly until the day Robert met Elena Santos. She was parked illegally in a handicap space, her car clearly displaying expired tags and a cracked windshield that obstructed vision. Under normal circumstances, Robert would have left a note about the windshield and ignored the parking violation. But something about this particular car bothered him. He checked his mental database of Chicago vehicle registrations, a skill he'd developed during his police years. Elena Santos. The name triggered recognition that felt like a punch to the chest. Elena Santos was Maria Santos' older sister. Maria Santos, the exhausted mother who'd rear-ended Maya's school bus because the brake lights weren't working. Robert stood frozen beside the illegally parked car, 5 years of suppressed grief and anger rising in his throat. This was the family that had killed his daughter. This woman was connected to the person who'd taken Maya from him. His first instinct was fury. Write every possible ticket, expired registration, illegal parking, obstructed vision, anything he could think of to make this family's life as difficult as they've made his. But as Robert pulled out his citation book, he noticed something that stopped him cold. A child's car seat in the back, pink and purple, sized for a girl about 8 years old, Maya's age when she died. And there, walking toward the car from the nearby medical building, was Elena Santos, carrying a small girl who looked exactly like Maya. Dark hair, serious eyes, carefully painted fingernails in rainbow colors. The little girl was Maya's age, Maya's size, Maya's world, walking toward a car with a cracked windshield and expired tags. Robert watched Elena buckle the child into the car seat and realized he was facing an impossible choice. He could punish this family for their connection to his daughter's death, or he could protect this child from becoming another Maya. The child looked up at him through the cracked windshield and smiled, a gap-toothed grin that was exactly like Maya's school pictures. Robert tore up the citation he'd started writing. Instead, he pulled out his notebook and wrote the most important note of his career. Your windshield is cracked in your line of sight. This is very dangerous, especially with a child in the car. Please get this fixed immediately. Also, your registration is expired. Police will ticket you or worse, and your little girl needs you safe and legal to drive. These repairs could save your life and hers. He placed the note under the wiper and walked away before Elena returned to her car. 2 days later, Robert was patrolling the same area when he saw Elena's car again. The windshield had been replaced. New registration tags sparkled on the license plate. The car looked safer, better maintained, ready to protect its precious cargo. Elena Santos was walking toward her car when she saw Robert approaching. She stopped and waited for him, her daughter's hand firmly held in hers. "Excuse me," Elena said quietly. "Are you the officer who left the note on my car?" Robert nodded, unsure what to expect. "I wanted to thank you," Elena continued. "I've been putting off those repairs because money's tight. If something happened to me, who would take care of Sophia?" She gestured to the little girl beside her. "I got everything fixed the same day I found your note." Sophia looked up at Robert with curious eyes. "Mama says you're a guardian angel who protects cars." Robert's throat tightened. "Things that might be dangerous. Why do you do it?" Elena asked. "I mean, instead of just writing tickets like other officers." Robert looked down at Sophia, this child who could have been Maya, this family connected to his greatest loss. The honest answer was too complicated, too painful to explain to strangers. "Because everyone deserves to get home safely," he said finally. Elena nodded slowly. "My sister, she was in a car accident a few years ago. Someone got hurt because of brake lights not working. Ever since then, our whole family has been extra careful about car maintenance. Your note reminded me that being careful isn't enough if you can't afford to stay careful." Robert felt something shift inside his chest. Maria Santos, the woman who'd killed his daughter, had a sister who was trying to prevent other accidents. A family that understood, perhaps better than anyone, how small mechanical failures could destroy lives. "Your sister," Robert said carefully. "Is she okay now?" Elena's face darkened. "She's been in therapy for years. Couldn't forgive herself for the accident. She works at a children's hospital now, trying to save other kids." Elena paused. "The little girl who died, Maria visits her grave every month, brings flowers, talks to her, apologizes over and over." Robert's vision blurred. Maria Santos, the woman he'd hated for 5 years, was mourning Maya every month, visiting her grave, living with the same guilt and grief that consumed him. I should go, Robert said, his voice cracking, but Sophia tugged on his uniform sleeve. Mr. Angel, will you check our car again? Mama wants to make sure it's really safe. Robert knelt down to Sophia's level, seeing Maya's eyes in his child's face. Your mama's car looks very safe now, but I'll keep watching, okay? I'll make sure all the cars around here are safe for little girls like you. Sophia hugged him impulsively, the way Maya used to hug him goodbye every morning. Thank you for protecting us. That evening Robert drove to the cemetery for the first time since Maya's funeral. Her grave was covered with fresh flowers. Pink roses, Maya's favorites. A small note was attached. I'm sorry, Maya. I'm trying to help other children be safer. Love, Maria. Robert sat beside his daughter's headstone and cried. For Maya, for Maria, for Elena and Sophia, for all the families destroyed by preventable accidents, for the realization that his mission to protect strangers' cars had accidentally protected the family of the woman who'd killed his daughter. But maybe that wasn't an accident. Maybe Maya had somehow guided him to Elena's car, knowing that protecting Sophia was how her father could finally forgive the woman who'd failed to protect her. The next Monday, Robert returned to work with new purpose. He wasn't just the parking meter angel anymore. He was Maya Martinez's father, using her death to prevent other children's deaths, protecting the daughters and sons of strangers because he couldn't protect his own. 6 months later, the city of Chicago discovered Robert's ticket writing shortage during a routine audit. His supervisor, Janet Williams, called him into the office, expecting to fire him for poor performance. Officer Martinez, she began, your ticket numbers are the lowest in the department. In 3.5 years, you've written exactly 0 parking citations. 0. How do you explain this? Robert had prepared for this moment. I've been focusing on traffic safety instead of parking enforcement. That's not your job description. Maybe it should be. Janet pulled out a folder thick with papers. I've been getting reports about you for months, drivers calling the city to praise the parking officer who leaves helpful notes instead of tickets. Local news wants to interview the parking meter angel. The mayor's office is asking questions. Robert waited for the termination notice. Instead, Janet smiled. The mayor wants to expand your program citywide, officially. Chicago PD's new Community Vehicle Safety Initiative, starting with you as the pilot officer. I don't understand. Janet spread photographs across her desk, social media posts from drivers who'd received Robert's notes. Before and after pictures of repaired brake lights, replaced tires, fixed windshields. Testimonials from families whose accidents had been prevented. You've prevented 47 documented accidents in 3 years, Janet said. Saved an estimated 12 lives, prevented millions of dollars in insurance claims, medical bills, and vehicle damage. The city isn't losing money from your missed tickets. We're saving money from avoided accidents. Dozens of families who'd made it home safely because he'd noticed their brake lights or tire problems. Children who were still alive because someone cared enough to leave a note. There's one more thing, Janet said, pulling out a final document, a letter that came to the mayor's office last week. Robert unfolded the handwritten note. Dear Mayor Johnson, I wanted you to know about Officer Martinez, the parking meter angel. 3 years ago he left a note on my car about my brake lights not working. I got them fixed that day. Last month my sister was rear-ended at a stoplight, but because my brake lights were working perfectly, the driver behind me was able to stop in time. My 8-year-old daughter Sophia was in the back seat. Officer Martinez saved her life with a simple note. I don't know if Officer Martinez has children of his own, but he protected mine like she was his own daughter. That's the kind of person Chicago needs, keeping our streets safe. Please give him a medal or promotion or whatever reward you give to real heroes. Gratefully, Elena Santos and Sophia Santos. Robert's hands trembled as he read Elena's letter. Sophia was safe because he'd checked her mother's car. Maya's death had somehow led to Sophia's protection. The circle was complete. So, Janet said, watching Robert wipe his eyes, are you interested in heading up this new program? Training other officers to prioritize safety over citations? Robert nodded, unable to speak. That afternoon he drove back to Maya's grave. The pink roses had been replaced with fresh ones. Maria's monthly visit. But this time, Robert left his own note beside the flowers. Dear Maya, Daddy found a way to keep other little girls safe. I think you'd be proud. I love you forever. Love, Daddy. I forgive her. I think you'd want me to. As he walked away from the cemetery, Robert's phone buzzed with a text message. A photo from Elena Santos, Sophia in her school uniform, rainbow fingernails bright against her backpack straps, climbing safely onto a school bus with working brake lights. Thank you for protecting our angel, the caption read. Now she can protect others too. Robert smiled through his tears and headed back to work. He had cars to check, notes to write, lives to save. Maya's death had taught him that every vehicle was someone's last ride. But Maya's love had taught him that every saved life was a small resurrection. Every prevented accident was hope reborn. The parking meter angel had found his wings. And somewhere in heaven, an 8-year-old girl, with rainbow fingernails, was smiling, knowing her daddy had turned his broken heart into everyone else's guardian angel.